Welcome to this debate in Cornwall for the candidates for First Selectman and for the Board of Selectmen. My name is Ed Dorset. I get to be the moderator once again. I believe this is my third year in a row of being in Cornwall to moderate. Each time I start by reminiscing about many years ago when I was a young lad at Salisbury Central School and would come down here to play basketball in a gym that was maybe a quarter of the size of this gym. I'm not sure how they knew when balls went out of bounds or not, but I knew when you put it in bounds, you kind of leaned up against the wall and put the ball and play that way. So this is a magnificent gymnasium here. Let me just explain a little bit about the procedure for this afternoon. We're going to start with opening statements, then go to closing statements, and then questions. Now for the questions, there's going to be three categories of questions. First category is questions allowing the First Selectman candidates to explain how they will conduct their office as the First Selectman Administrator and Agenda Setter. That'll be the first series of questions for just the First Selectman candidates. The second series of questions for just the Selectman candidates to explain how they will serve as a decision maker on the Board of Selectmen. And then finally, the third set of questions, questions on specific substantive issues on which the entire Board of Selectmen will have responsibility for deciding and for which all four candidates will have an opportunity to speak. Now, as you already know, you guys there have an opportunity to write some questions on a 3x5 card if you wish. The potential questions will go through these two gentlemen down here to be vetted and passed up to me, and I'll be the one asking the questions. Now, in terms of time, the decision is made that the opening and closing statements will be 2 minutes each for each candidate. And as they're answering the questions in each of the three categories, each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the questions. Let me introduce our four candidates here. I know you all know them. Gordon Ridgway, who is the Democratic candidate for First Selectman. Casey Barrett, the Republican candidate for First Selectman. Richard Bramley, the Democrat candidate for the Board of Selectmen. And Heidi Kearns, the Republican Board of Selectmen candidate. So let us get underway with opening statements. And after a coin toss, the decision is that the Democrats will be going first. So Gordon, if you would start with your opening statement, please.
Okay. Thank you, Ed, and thank you for moderating this event, and thanks to everyone here for coming. Voters of Cornwall have real choices this election day, as they should in a politically alive town. The job of First Selectman is to administer the town's business. One has to be available for the constant work with other officials and residents. The Selectman's office is always open for people without an appointment. I've also responded to people's concerns on weekends, holidays, and sometimes make house calls. Some of our accomplishments in the last 2 years illustrate the complexity and variety of the job and the successful teamwork we enjoy in Cornwall. We have celebrated the best 275th anniversary of any town in Litchfield County. We have relamped the largest live solar-lit tree in the United States on the Green and Cornwall Bridge. We have installed a new generator and purchased, with a grant from FEMA, land. We purchased a generator, and we've also purchased land at the West Cornwall Firehouse. We got the generator with a grant from FEMA. We've gotten through some tough winters under budget and with good coordination and work with the Highway Department. The town has completed a bridge survey and has improved its road sealing program. I have responded to emergencies, large and small, with the fire department. We celebrated recently the opening of the Bonnie Brook Seniors Housing. We helped fund the purchase of land at Trinity by the Cornwall Conservation Trust with the town's Open Space Fund. I have attended all the meetings of the Economic Development Commission, which has been very active with this Explore Cornwall program. You can see that running the town is a complex and collaborative process. Let's keep moving forward by keeping the experienced team in place. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Gordon. Next, Richard Bramley, the candidate Democrat for the Board of Selectmen. Richard.
I've lived in Cornwall for 36 years. I've raised 2 children, and I own a retail business here in town. I'm seeking my 6th term as selectman. Cornwall has been very generous. It's been a very generous community to me and my family. And this public service is a means to contribute back to the town. I've helped navigate the town over the past 10 years by assisting and helping the Board of Selectmen during very difficult economic times. We have maintained low property taxes by finding alternative funding as a key component to affording and completing important projects in town. Some of these projects would include the development of foot fields, the rebuilding of Lower River Road Bridge after Storm Irene, the building of the Bonnybrook Senior Housing, installing the new generator at the West Cornwall Firehouse, the resurfacing of the roads at Great Hollow and Great Hill. I would like to continue my work as selectman, moving the town forward as Cornwall confronts the demand to maintain and refurbish our roads, bridges, and buildings, and purchase new highway department trucks and fire department vehicles. This will require careful bipartisan planning with the Board of Finance to phase in these needs without adverse effect on our taxes. Over the next 2 years, I hope to continue my work with the Economic Development Commission to help strengthen the business vitality of town and find ways to attract new people and new businesses to Cornwall.
Thank you, Richard. Next is Casey Baird, the Republican candidate for first selectman.
Well, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank Brian Savin and Rick Wolkowitz for pulling this together so we can have this debate forum whenever it's considered. I've stated that the first selectman's job should not be a long-term occupation with total compensation over $85,000. Is on? Okay. It's a service, and I realize it's a 24/7 job. With that said, I would like to bring at least the wage part down back to where it was previously, to a part-time position. But I'd also like to increase the other selectmen's compensation I'd like to increase it by 50%. By doing this, we will save the town $40,000 annually. Today, we will, during this forum, we will talk about different managerial styles, the needs of the town moving forward, and I will also explain how I would like to include the other selectmen in the decision-making processes that are before us. With that said, Ed, I'd like to turn it over to Heidi and let her do her opening statement. Thank you.
Heidi Kearns, the Republican candidate for the Board of Selectmen. Heidi?
Thanks. Hi there, and thank you all for coming out this afternoon, and thank you, Ed, for monitoring our discussion. My hope is that by answering your questions today, you will get a clearer picture of where I stand, and I will get a better perspective of what you expect from your Board of Selectmen. I have to admit that I thought long and hard about whether or not I would run for a second term. I am a believer in giving back to my community, which is why I ran in the first place. But my first term has been in many ways a tough lesson, as I often found myself frustrated as I sought to gain information on topics we are planning to discuss and vote on. But I hope that the preparation and hard work I have put forth in the last 2 years will provide a base for improving the board's working relationship and enhance our ability to serve all of you. When I started my first term, it was impossible not to notice that our town buildings were falling into disrepair. The gutters were leaking and there were downspouts falling off of the town hall. There is a window that is falling out of the town clerk's office. And there was an active leak at the town hall, or the town highway garage, that was going on for at least a year. Now, no one is more committed to fiscal responsibility than I am, and I know that these types of repairs are expensive, but it is critical to maintain our buildings and to do it on a regular basis so we can manage the costs in an appropriate manner. These days, planning is more important than ever as the key to a well-run government. Planning not just for building repairs, but for our roads and our bridges. Planning for both the tanker and the pumper that the fire department are going to need. Planning for changing school enrollments, and planning for economic growth. But successful planning is a two-way street. It requires input from the community, and it requires a board that really listens. And it is my intention, if re-elected, to be committed to working with my colleagues and to develop forward-looking plans based on your input.
Thank you. And now we'll move to the questions, and remember the categories we have. And the first category will be questions for just the first selectman candidates. They will get 90 seconds to answer each question, and we will spend no more than 15 minutes on this particular category of question. And the order will continue, so Casey will have the first question to answer, and then Gordon will respond to that, and we'll keep changing from there. So here's the first question for the first selectman candidate. The lead in it is as follows. The first selectman sets the agenda of a town government. So the question is, what are the priority issues requiring town attention in the next 2 years, and how do you plan to deal with those issues? Casey.
Thanks. Yes, the first selectman does set the agenda for the town. And how I see the priorities as we move forward for the next 2 years is I've started working with NW Connect regarding fiber optics to get our region wired so we can have, increase in the internet use and whatnot. Second is the sewer and water in both Cornwall Bridge and West Cornwall. We need to get something going. We have it going, but get the feasibility studies done and answer those questions of when and what we're going to bring in, either both, one or the other. Bridges and roads are always a concern, and I'd want feedback from townspeople, and I'm sure as first selectman I'll get feedback from townspeople. I got to move this along. The CCS, having it be sustainable financially. We all know that there's a lot of costs involved with the school, and we need to meet those needs. And all this ties in together, and I know the Economic Development Committee is starting to work on it, is enhancing the brand of Cornwall. And we'll talk more about that as we go along, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gordon, the same question.
Yeah, I think the key to the next 2 years has been the key to our success in the past too, and that is teamwork. We have a great team in place in town that is continuously cooperating to get things done. Some of the areas that we have to pay attention to is encouraging the work of the Economic Development Committee. I've been at all the meetings of that committee for the last 2 years. They've done a great program, but it's only a beginning. I plan to meet with economic consultants tomorrow to go over some of the businesses that are having issues in town. I think also you need to be aware that I was a member of the Cornwall Housing Corporation and the Planning and Zoning Commission before I was a selectman. And clearly they have a collaborative role to play in helping us to attract young families in town. I also work with the school in building up its publicity for people outside of Cornwall to understand what a great school we have here. In addition, I work constantly to improve social services. We have a new van coming to town to help with transportation. We are working on issues to get grants to improve the infrastructure and make our villages more visitor friendly.
Thank you. Next question for the first selectman candidates is as follows. And Gordon, you will be doing this one first. How will you acquire citizen input on the various important issues that you wish to take up in the next 2 years? Citizen input.
Yes, you can't be first selectman for long without knowing people in Cornwall are very much like to express themselves on issues that facing the town. And certainly, if you go to as many events as I do, you hear what people have to say about important issues facing the town, whether it's the markets, the firehouse, the beach, or the hub of Cornwall, the dump. I'm constantly in contact with people about the important issues facing the town. I get calls at the office and at home about what's going on. And I think also going forward, some things have to be more than casual conversations. And what I see happening in the next couple of years is having in-depth economic planning sessions to really dig down into what's going on with the Cornwall economy, find out from other towns and other regions on ways to improve it, use the economic consultants that the region has hired to help us with that. Also, we're looking at doing a survey to look at social services and see how they are delivered and ways we can innovate there. And also, I think one thing I'm going to be doing is getting the first selectman page on a website to make perhaps me more visible on that. But another thing people can do is come to the town meeting next Friday night at the town hall, where we'll be reviewing the town report. There's a lot of information that will be available to people at that time, and any town issue can be discussed at that time, and I'm sure people will have questions then.
Thank you. Casey?
I want to hear from the people of Cornwall. As Heidi was saying, it's a two-way street, but it's a two-way street with you also. And I need to hear, and I'm sure I will hear, if elected, of any problems, any concerns, ideas that maybe can come before the Board of Selectmen that we can really research and act on. But it is, we don't read minds. We need to know where you're coming from. What are your gripes? What do you like? I mean, it doesn't always have to be bad. It can be good as well. And I'm very accessible. I mean, you can email me. You can email when I'm selectman. You can email me there, and I will answer. And if I have to go to your home, I'll do that. You don't even have to feed me. I'll eat before I come. And I really want to hear from you. I want to be a first selectman of the people. For after all, I work for you. You're the ones that we're doing this for, and we really need to hear from you because it'll make everything go much smoother.
Thank you. The next question for the first selectman is as follows. How will you work with the other selectmen to conduct the business of the Board of Selectmen? Casey?
Once again, I have said, and I said it 2 years ago, that I'm planning to involve the other selectmen in day-to-day, well, not so much day-to-day operations. Let's say they have a passion for something. And I saw this in Sharon, where Jessica Fowler, who's a select woman there, is on NW Connect, which is dealing with fiber optics. She had a passion for that, and she took the bull by the horns, and she's heading it up. And this is the kind of thing that I'm not going to just throw everything out. Okay, we got to take care of this. So you take this, you take this. I realize that I'm the one that is responsible, and I'll accept that responsibility. And if a selectman or anybody, any of our fine town employees, if something goes wrong, I'll take the bullets. It's on my watch. But so delegating, I think, is very important, and it also is important to help whoever is sitting on the board to aspire to maybe become the first selectman if they so wish.
Thank you. Gordon?
Yes, I think what we'll do after the election is to sit down with the board that gets elected and discuss the agenda for what we hope to accomplish in the next 2 years. We certainly know there's a lot of issues out there as far as social services, the West Cornwall Sewers study, attracting young families to town, and certainly we will remain active in all those categories. what I have tried to do in the last several years is to also expand the nature of the selectmen's meetings and bring in people that also work on some of these issues to use our meetings to not only inform the board, but also use Richard's filming of the committees to give exposure to town issues. And in the last month, we brought in the Little Guild to talk about their things, bicyclists to talk about the West New England Greenway, the Emergency Management Director, the Fire Department have been in our meetings. And I think it's important also that the Board of Selectmen sets the policy, but the first selectman is the town administrator. And from what I understand, Casey's still planning to have a full-time job away from town. I'll be in the office every day the town is open, and I'll be able to respond to the issues that come up. And I think it's also important that our Board of Selectmen continue their role in bringing communications forward.
Thank you. The final question for the first selectman candidates is as follows. Other than dollar savings with revised salaries as has been proposed here this afternoon, what is the benefit of that to the town's citizens? Gordon.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out with Casey's thing about the $40,000 savings, Roberta Willis would tell you that the town of Cornwall under my leadership has gotten more grants, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of grants that help us move our priorities forward. So you have to have somebody in the office that knows the people, knows where to get resources, and not being in the office does not help the town of Cornwall. So I think it's very short-sighted to think that you can shut the town office down to a part-time level and move the town forward. There are too many issues facing this town to operate it on a part-time level. So I don't really think that's a long-term solution for the town or one that would work out. I think also if you look at the Lakeville Journal where they look at all the first selectmen in Region 1, its compensation for Cornwall is right in the middle of the region. So I don't think it's outrageous. I think there's a lot of places where we need to work 24/7 on these issues. And going forward, I would like to continue to be available to people and work full-time and get the input in addressing a lot of these issues that are facing the town and not delegate my responsibilities under the town government to other people.
Thank you. Casey?
Well, I still plan to delegate, and yes, I am going to keep my full-time job, and I am accessible even when I'm at work. I realize that the thing that I am reducing is just the salary. It's not spending time in the office and doing the work that needs to be done. Plus, including the other selectmen will enable us. I mean, I believe in many hands make for light work. And once again, as I said before, if they aspire to be the first selectman, they will have that kind of experience that can only help the town of Cornwall going forward. And $40,000 is $40,000 that we can use, with limited resources that we may have, to use in programs maybe for through social services or whatnot. This is it's something I believe in. Once again, it's the just the salary that I'd be cutting, not the requirements of the job or my role in that position.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the second category of questions, the questions that are for the Board of Selectmen candidates. And the first question is as follows, and Richard, I'll have you go first on this. The lead into the question is, the Selectmen have decision-making responsibilities on all matters that come before the Board of Selectmen for vote. You are both sitting Selectmen. How do you keep yourselves informed about town issues generally? And what do you do to prepare for each meeting of the Board of Selectmen? Richard.
Well, the question of how do I prepare and how do I make decisions? Making decisions is a complex it's a complex set of circumstances. But it requires thoughtfulness and it requires time if you have it. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't have it. In my day job, I'm making decisions all the time. Some of them are immediate. You have to make immediate decisions. And the decisions I may be making are how best do you handle a customer, how best do you provide for their needs or requests, how do you make repairs, how do you go about, how do I go about running my business? And I'm making decisions all the time, and I make these decisions at the time. And I take these skills to the Board of Selectmen to be making decisions with the information that's at hand. Sometimes you can delay that decision-making and attempt to acquire more information, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just have to move forward and make the decisions that you can. How do I go about finding information about that? It's information that comes from the Selectman's office. It's by talking to people in town. It's by talking to the road crew, by talking to other members of the community.
Thank you. Heidi, the same question?
So the way that I keep myself informed, first and foremost, is to read our local newspapers. They're so well written and thorough. And then I also talk to the residents, and I actually ask them. So what are your thoughts on a particular issue? And if I don't have an immediate answer or a way to solve the issue right then and there, certainly research what needs to be done to figure out how to fix that problem or remedy that situation. And then to prepare for meetings, when I first started on the board, our agendas were showing up in our email boxes the day before the meeting. I need more than one day to prepare for a meeting, so I asked that they be written 2 to 3 days before. And they were. Joyce was great at getting those out to us, which gives me the time to research each item. If I have questions, to find the person who might have the answer for it. And if not, bring it to the board and get some more clarification on it that night. And so mostly it's just reading the agenda items, asking myself what questions do I have on this item, and then figuring out if I can get an immediate answer to it, or if I need to wait for further clarification at the meeting.
Thank you. The next question for our Selectman candidates is as follows. What do you believe have been your most important contributions to the office you've held in the last 2 years? Heidi?
So again, I like to listen to the residents and try to resolve their concerns as quickly as possible. I think that I have increased openness in our office by sharing my view of what happens at the meetings. I have an email blast that goes out after the meetings called The View from My Seat, and folks have said that they find that helpful and insightful. And I have also brought attention to our town infrastructure and buildings that needed some repair work and review to make sure that the repairs happen and their buildings don't deteriorate. That's about it.
Thank you. And Richard, the same question for you, your contributions.
The most important contributions to the office that I've made in the last 2 years, I believe, has been the moderating influence on the board. Someone who stays on task to keep the focus of the meetings on real issues. I'm comfortable in my role as selectman, and I understand that I'm not the first selectman, nor do I act in ways that confuses the situation. The selectman's role is to act as the legislative body, except at times when the town meeting is required. Specifically, some of the contributions I've made in the last 2 years is being involved in starting the dialogue about the water issues in West Cornwall, working with the EDC. Earlier this month, the EDC held its first Explore Cornwall Days, providing an opportunity for groups, including the school and regional employers, real estate, and other individuals to talk with each other and to possibly and to meet with possible new residents. I've been involved with town-wide activities, including the Newcomers Tea, the Ag Fair, and the 275th anniversary. I was instrumental in creating one of the floats in the parade, and I enjoyed myself along with hundreds of other people. And all of that was done with a modest budget. And I would say that was quirky Cornwall at its best.
Thank you. And the final question for our selectman candidates is, are there any changes you would like to see in the way the Board of Selectmen functions and in your own role going forward? Richard?
Well, and going forward, I would say that I feel that the board is actually pretty effective. We meet 2 times a month for regular meetings. Many of the communities around here only meet once a month. So we meet twice a month for regular meetings, and frequently there's at least 1 or 2 special meetings for different specific issues. We allow public comment at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting. We've invited people in, as Gordon had said, to talk to us about what's going on in town. Some of the people that have been there over the last 2 years have been the visiting nurses, the chairman of the EDC, the chairman of the Energy Task Force on several occasions, the Cornwall Volunteer Fire Department, the first selectman of the town of Goshen, concerning a van, a community van for both towns, presentation from the Cornwall Conservation Commission. The board is careful to follow the FOI guidelines that include not talking about town affairs outside of meetings. Private and public digital conversations between board members are discouraged. When we talk, when the board talks, you get to see it. It's being recorded. There's a discussion about the board should be more transparent. I feel if I was any more transparent, I'd be invisible.
Heidi?
I agree that our board does function well when information is distributed to us in a timely manner. And so one thing that I would like to research in my role as far as going forward would be the possibility of each selectman having our own town email accounts. Currently, questions and information that comes directly into the first selectman's email account is often distributed to us, but not always. Whether that's human error or something else, I'm not sure, but I'm often hearing from folks that say, geez, did you see this email that I sent, or this information that I sent? And sure enough, I'm just learning it firsthand from them. So I wonder, and I have not asked other towns, but I wonder if emails that go directly into the main Cornwall Selectman account could automatically be distributed to the other selectmen so that we're all on the same page at the same time.
Thank you. And now we'll move into the third category of questions, which are questions for all of the candidates to answer here at the table, and each one of them will get 90 seconds to do their answer. The first question is as follows, and the Republicans will go first. The question is, in light of the state budget shortfall, what are your thoughts about the effects this could have on the town of Cornwall? Our Republicans.
Yeah, I read about the Connecticut State shortfall. And see, the state does provide the town of Cornwall with some money, and if it's going to be cut, that's going to be a real budgeting concern. The Board of Selectmen, and even when I was on the board, we always tried to keep the mill rate at a level that wasn't, say, overtaxing. Going forward, though, it would be nice to work with the P&Z, the Economic Development Committee, and whatnot, to see, well, if you have a business and your sales are down, you try to think of new ways to increase your revenue, increasing sales. And that's what that's got to be part of the planning process. And hopefully we can move forward and survive this storm.
Heidi, if you'd like to add to that?
Sure. Yeah, we felt that this year because none of our STEEP grants were awarded, and so that was really difficult. Thankfully, they are going to have another round coming up soon, and perhaps they will. I'm sorry, is it a combined 90 seconds or each person?
90 seconds each person.
I'm sorry.
90 seconds each.
You have to talk much faster.
We're done, that's it. It's like a gong show.
Let's do 90 seconds each person. Yes,
Sorry.
thank you.
That's fine. So we're hoping that the next round that comes through, they will give us enough more consideration. So I imagine that going forward, a lot of those grants and a lot of the state funding that we rely on is going to be less. So as I said earlier in my opening, we're going to need to plan for these funds. They're going to be needed for the major and the important projects that can't wait for STEEP grants. And that would mean working with the Board of Finance, as well as other boards and commissions in town. And we do, I have attended Board of Ed meetings, Board of Finance meetings, and it seems like folks do try to work together to be sure that our most important financial projects are handled in a responsible way.
Thank you. Democrats?
Yes, I'm concerned that the state of Connecticut budget is out of balance. One thing the town of Cornwall does not do and cannot do is keep its budget out of balance. So in comparison, we are in solid financial condition. So we are in good shape. The town is not that reliant on state aid. When we generally get state money, it comes in the form of grants. However, I do know the governor, I know our two senators, I know our congressperson, I also know our state and senator and representative. So I do spend a lot of time monitoring what's going on in Hartford. I'm on the Council of Small Towns, Connecticut Council of Small Towns, and one thing we try to do is keep down the mandate so the towns do not have to spend money unnecessarily, because they can actually cost you more than whatever state aid these small towns get. I am concerned with the governors, even though I know a lot of the state politicians. I'm not afraid to criticize them if I feel it is in the town's interest. I'm very concerned about the governor's plan to cut aid to Sharon Hospital. And again, even though that is not in Cornwall, it is a regional asset that we have to work together in a bipartisan way to support. So a lot of these issues are complicated. They take time to learn the ropes. You have to find your way around Hartford. You have to know the people. You have to have the contacts. You have to spend the time. And that's one thing I bring to the job, is great experience dealing with statewide issues.
I would say that the state monies that's involved in the regular budgeting process, the Board of Selectmen's budget or the Board of Education budget, which we're not specifically connected with, those monies are fairly limited relative to the overall budget of the town. And we usually anticipate not getting very much money from the state for budgeting purposes, and then whatever we do get is happily received. Part of this would be working with the Board of Finance about it. I think that part of this is paraphrasing the immortal words of the Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. I think that by maintaining and keeping our budget in line while maintaining services that are required, we allow our town to be affordable. We have a very affordable tax rate. We're certainly one of the least expensive towns to live in by taxes. And so for home buyers or moderate income people or fixed income people or limited income people, it's an important aspect of town. prospective buyers looking to come to town, the first thing they look at is the price of the house. The second thing they look at are the taxes. So it is important that we maintain a tight budget.
Thank you. The next question for all of our candidates is, what is your goal for the economy of Cornwall? And start with the Democrats, please.
My goal for the next 2 years is to try to move the economy of Cornwall into the 21st century. I think we have to encourage more internet-based businesses, and we have had some setbacks. A lot of the retail businesses in Cornwall are under pressure, and I think we have to be innovative. And we have been innovative in that we're one of the first towns up in this area to have an economic development committee several years ago, so they're in place. We also have the ability, working for the council, with the council governments, to be the beneficiaries of an economic development consulting grant, and I plan to meet with them and the chair of the economic development committee tomorrow. So we have to think of those types of ideas. There is a lot of creative thought on how you make small towns grow, and I would like to steal other towns' good ideas. For example, there's talk of doing small business hubs so people can take their home-based businesses to the next level. There's also, through the Council of Governments, a planning process that's underway to have a food hub come to northwestern Connecticut to encourage processing of agricultural goods. And other towns have seen a growth in areas like microbreweries and distilleries. I would like to make sure that Cornwall does not have regulations that would preclude that type of agribusiness from coming to our town.
Richard?
I think Gordon has touched on many of the key points. I think one other aspect may be to maintain and help, if necessary, some of the businesses that are in town. We have several commercial spaces that, large commercial spaces, the ski area, Northwest Lumber, or Northeast Lumber, or whatever its name is. Some of these things have been maybe in need of some assistance from the town or advice. Other properties in town, there are some properties in town that have potential that I think that we, the town, can help move forward if necessary. We can do the things that are necessary to help them move forward.
Thank you. Casey and Heidi?
To help the economy of Cornwall, I've already met with Bill Valley and Erin Katz from the Consumer Council of the state of Connecticut regarding fiber optics and the Northwest, and then I was involved with NW Connect to bring fiber optics, to get us wired into a high-speed internet. Richard mentioned, what people ask when they're buying a house. Yes, what are the taxes and so forth, maybe the school, but also they ask, do we have high-speed internet? And this would be a great revolution for us, that we can attract home-based businesses. We can improve our the education process for our kids by being able to receive data faster and do more with it. It could also, through the fiber optics, we found that you may be able to put the Wi-Fi or the mobile use would be better because you can put it on the telephone poles. These are things that, looking at and helping our infrastructure grow, will also then increase our or improve our economic base here in the town of Cornwall.
I find it interesting in our small rural towns how everything it ends up so intertwined. The economic development is related to the school enrollment, to how much affordable housing do we have, to how many jobs are available and that are out there now. I found it interesting that at the Explore Cornwall event a couple weeks ago, there was a representative from Aetna who said they had 80 telecommuting jobs available right now. For folks in our towns to even think they have, a great shot at such a position, they would need to be sure that we have fast, reliable internet connections. So it was a little disappointing to me last year when I learned that we had information from the COG was not brought to the table in a timely manner, so that we lost the opportunity to discuss the Nutmeg network that was being offered, which is a fiber optic line that could be run down into the town hall area. But then it still interests me that the town of Canaan, which has some of the most affordable housing in our area and some pretty big employers with Becton Dickinson, they are still losing student enrollment. So, it makes me just wonder how that, what is the balance that needs to happen to make the economic development in our town, in our region, work.
Gordon and Richard?
I think we already answered that.
Yep.
Well, did you?
We'll answer it again.
No.
Got another answer.
No. I know I do that at least once. Our next question for all of our candidates is, what other resources from regional organizations or state government would you seek out to help with town issues? Oh, I started with the Democrats, I'm sorry. Gordon had to know it was his turn. He knew when it wasn't his turn.
That's good. All right, so one thing, as I said, I've been a member of the Council of Governments, which is the organization of the first selectman in 19 towns in northwestern Connecticut. And one thing, by working together, we have applied for state grants. And one of the things we get from the state grants is we've gotten highway equipment. We've just started screening our own sand for winter using a screen. We use a sweeper that's we rent from the equipment co-op from the Council of Governments. We also have obtained grants to do the generator at the firehouse. We've, over the years, had steep grants which have allowed businesses to upgrade their storefronts. And I also look forward to working with the state. There is a program that would help us study the septic issue down in West Cornwall, which we hope to get going in the fall. So I think it helps to know how to write grants. I've been successful in doing that, but it also helps to know the people in the state government that can come out and help you if you have to have a bridge dance or whatever else your health issues are, your civil preparedness. And we had a tree across 128, I knew who to call because West Cornwall was cut off from the rest from the firehouse, and there was no access to Sharon Hospital. So it's important to know what the resources are and how to call the right person at the right time.
Well, I think in the this past week there was a statewide emergency planning session that was conducted at the firehouse. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend that. I was out of town on personal needs, and but that's the kind of event, that's the kind of planning, those are the kinds of contacts that are instrumental and extremely important during emergency needs. And those kinds of sessions, which have been, I think, every year or 2 years, have taken place to test out things. I think the accessing many of the state issues would be more the position of the first selectman than the board of selectmen. I think that that is more their role. There are things to, as Gordon has mentioned, that a couple of the other events that are taking place are looking for creating a board in town, a committee in town to study the requirements and necessity and require the study in West Cornwall to see what's possible with the water issues there, and then to determine what kind of monies would be available for that.
Thank you. Casey and Heidi?
In seeking help for the town of Cornwall, I would look definitely outside of the town, regionally, through the COG, through CCM, seeing what other selectmen, what other ideas they had, or what avenues they went to. Of course, you know, contacting Clark Chapin and Roberta Willis would be a wealth of information to, even though I may not have the names available to me right now, I'm sure I could find them quite easily, the key contact people. We also, Heidi, she used to write grants or grant applications as her job. Well, once again, in delegating, you have somebody, a resource right there at your fingertips. So I would certainly ask her to help out in that light. But yes, if we have a need in the town for a particular grant, and if it is available, then we should definitely go after it and apply for it.
I was at the statewide emergency management meeting last week. It was a great exercise. It was last year as well. All of us, the different departments, the highway department, the selectmen, the fire department, all getting together and planning what would happen if there was an emergency is a really good exercise. You know, all the way down to what do we do with our animals? Because after all, there are more chickens in town than there are people. And the representative from Eversource was there, and a couple times he was asked, so what do you think? Is there something more that we should know? And each time he said, no, you guys are doing a great job. The dialogue is what you need to keep open. Everyone needs to have an idea of what their role is and be sure that they follow through on it. I also attended the state meeting, the meeting with the state that we had on the West Cornwall, whether it was going to be water in or sewer in to the West Cornwall area. And there were some state grants that were mentioned there that we could apply for. I do keep up with the Northwest COG. I can't attend their meetings, they're in the middle of the day, but I do read their minutes, and I have spoken with their executive director, Rick Lynn, often to get his thoughts on questions that I might have or information that I'm seeking out. And as Gordon said, we do participate in the COG with the regional equipment rental, which is a really great option for the towns. If you have a piece of equipment that you just need one time during the year, it's very expensive. It's helpful to just be able to borrow that for a day or two. And I have spoken with selectmen in other towns just to get their perspective and insight on issues that similar issues that they are experiencing that we are. And I am interested in seeing if there are additional grants out there other than just the steep grants, or the ones that the state throws out every year. Are there other grants that are available that might specifically help the fire department or the businesses?
The next question for all candidates is as follows. The writer writes this: I see climate change as the most crucial issue of our world. How would you address this going forward? Casey and Heidi. Sure, I'll read it. Yep. This is what the writer writes. I see climate change as the most crucial issue of our world. How would you address this going forward? Climate change. Casey and Heidi.
I really, I'm stumped by that one. If you want to go first.
I'll start on this one so he has time to think. We did work in collaboration with the town of Goshen to get a van that will allow us to transport people back and forth to shopping or doctor's appointments. So this, if we can coordinate that enough so that we can combine trips to Torrington with folks, or Sharon or New Milford, wherever they need to go, so that we're transporting more than one person in one vehicle, that will be helpful. I also recently received information on, and have not had a whole lot of time to research it, is that there is a gas pipeline that's running along our border with Kent, just over the line in Dover. That's something that I'm going to have to really look into. I didn't know that issue was so close to us, and I am concerned about fracking being that close to our area. And other things that I'm proactive about is bike lanes. We just did have a presentation by the bike folks in town to support their efforts at getting bike lanes and walking paths throughout town, which would, that's always helpful. It's tough when you're up and down, but we're willing to do it. Let's do it. Good? All right.
Thank you. Yes, cutting down on emissions to help offset, to help with the climate change is vital. But also in Cornwall, we're very environmentally sound or friendly. Increasing the use of solar panels in one's homes. When I just drove back a few weeks ago from Montana, and I was going through Iowa, and I was seeing all these acres and acres of the wind turbines going. And I think that's the right step in which the country, and certainly the Northwest Corner, should go in trying to use fossil fuels and whatnot. And I will say that I've just put solar panels on my home, and it seems to be working very, very well, and it's my part in helping the environment.
Gordon and Richard?
I think the town has already done a number of steps in that direction. We were one of the first towns to sign up for the 20% by 2020, 20% renewable energy by 2020. We have solar panels here at this school. There are solar panels at the town offices. I think the town offices are virtually 100% electric by the solar panels. We've re-lamped the school here. This room right here was changed and saving a tremendous amount of energy. The town offices have just this year been re-insulated. The school, there are parts of the school that's been re-insulated. We have recycled oil burned at the town garage. These are all things that have been implemented in the last 5 or 6 years to address that specific concern. And virtually all of these were done with grants also. And I'd have to look up what the specific grants were that each one of them were done with.
Certainly Cornwall has been a leader in the environmental movement for a very long time, and having HVA have their headquarters here is no accident. But I think Richard's answer shows that the Board of Selectmen know what's going on in the town. It's not just the first selectman to keep up on these things. The amount of information that both he and Heidi get and have to consume in the course of a year is a lot. There's a lot of things going on. But back to the main question about climate change, Cornwall, I think, has had a leading role with our solar panels and our energy audits, but we also do some things that other towns don't do. Our application of sand and salt on the roads is less than some other towns, and in fact, we're probably one of the few highway departments that counts on the sun to actually burn off the snow in the second half of the in the second half of the winter, in addition to using sand and salt. Also supporting the Conservation Trust and land preservation in our area helps us keep a green town green, keep the forest strong, and it also helps our local economy. So all these things come together in a package. And one other thing I'd like to point out is also supporting our school here. For years, the science class come up to our farm, see our organic farm, see solar panels, see wood heat, and see how an environmental lifestyle can be an important contribution to society. And a lot of kids come out of this school with a very good environmental education, which is one of the keys for future success of our country.
Thank you. Our final question for all of our candidates here is as follows. What are your thoughts about the need to appoint a committee to work on plans for a sewer system in West Cornwall? And we'll start with Gordon and Richard.
Sure, absolutely. That's one thing we have. We are going to be doing this fall and winter. We've already lined up some people to help us with the process going forward. It's a complicated, potentially expensive project, but I think the board is united in its agreement that that's something that the town has to look at and fund. We'll look again for grants to do some, offset some of those funds, and it will be a complicated process, but we have begun to think about it, and I'm convinced that we will appoint a committee this fall and winter to start tackling that complicated issue.
Yes, I would agree with that. That is and has been in the works for a year or so, and has come to the point that there will be a committee appointed this fall, presumably after the election, and with the anticipation of grant money, approximately 50% to do the study. But the point of the committee is to define the study so that when a consultant or group is hired, that they're actually going to study what we want them to study. And I would assume that that committee will come together this winter and start their work.
Thank you. Casey and Heidi.
Could I just ask you to repeat the question again?
Sure. What are your thoughts on the need to appoint a committee to work on plans for a sewer system in West Cornwall?
So it's just limited to sewer?
That's what the question says. Okay. And I've made the presumption that WC means West Cornwall.
Yeah, that's
a
right.
good presumption.
Okay. Yes, you know, a committee should be appointed for this study. We know there's a need for it. You can ask all the people with either businesses or residences in West Cornwall that if they need something. They need either the water or the sewer. But this question seems to be just dealing with the sewer. So yes, and then to see if it's feasible. But there should be a lot of public involvement with the people that live in West Cornwall. This is who it's impacting. And if it is brought in, if the sewage system is brought in, it's going to cost money to tie into it. So get the feedback from them, see what the need is. See if you can work water in and you can decide whether or not, is it both we need, is it just the sewage we need, or can we get by with water? We all know that with sewage, you know, there's setbacks involved and whatnot. This all has to be taken into account because the footprint of the West Cornwall, as we know, is very tight, and to meet the needs of that. This is an infrastructure thing that needs to be a project that needs to be taken care of to help enhance the people in West Cornwall and to help them out economically as well.
Okay, well, I guess we now have a unanimous decision that we will need a committee to look at this. So I'll be taking names later. As Gordon said earlier, Richard and I, we do get lots of information thrown at us in a year, so it's really helpful to have some of these committees that are just focused on this one issue and then bring their knowledge to us so that we can then make decisions of where to go to from there. I know that other towns have applied for and received steep grants for their sewer system, so I wonder if that's something we could use in conjunction with the 55% that the other state grant will contribute to that consultant, that the committee will help determine. But I wonder also, and I bring this up at every sewer meeting that we have, is would it be a smarter decision for us to look at doing a central water system? Somewhere higher up the hill that can run by gravity, hopefully. If not, we can certainly put some power to it. It's generally less expensive to do, easier to install, and it allows for the businesses still to expand because it eliminates that 75-foot buffer that they need to have from their septic. So they could add more parking, they could add on to their businesses themselves. And I think that what we need this committee to help us with too is are there any new out-of-the-box ideas out there? Everybody has the same ideas. Do we do this? Do we do that? Is there anything new out there that someone could share with us that would help us with these difficult issues? And they certainly would add jobs and improve the economic situation in all of Cornwall.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to our closing statements. And incidentally, very nice questions. Thank you very much. The first closing statement, Casey.
We spoke about many things here today, but what wasn't touched was what I wanted to really bring forward. Granted, I'll have a much different managerial style than Gordon does. And Gordon's style is that's his MO. And you're not going to change that. I mean, there's probably better odds that Jane Bean's going to vote for Donald Trump than Gordon changing it. That's just the way he is, and that's the way he does business. But in my style would be to include the selectmen, to bring in information from the public that we can work on things as a board with involvement from you, getting information from you, deciphering it, and then making decisions, because any decision we make has to be to benefit the town and the people in the town. If anyone should have any questions regarding where I stand on certain issues or going forward, please contact me. You can friend me on Facebook, you can email me at bairdkc@yahoo.com, it's not complicated. And to answer Heidi's question before, I would like to see each select person have their own email address. We certainly don't need a Hillary Clinton type thing with the emails going on. So please, if you have any questions, contact any of us. Be informed and make your decisions based on doing your due diligence. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi?
So many of you have told me that you find my email blast, The View from My Seat, insightful and helpful in understanding what is going on in town. If you do not receive it and you would like to see me after, I'm happy to add you. One of the biggest factors in my decision to seek a second term was the encouragement I received from people in the community. And I have to say your positive comments were key to my decision to run. And I will continue to do my best to earn your confidence and support. And Ed's right, all of your questions were relative and really great questions, and I'm happy that we were able to answer them, and I hope we did it to your satisfaction. But in closing, I'd like to relate an accomplishment that I am proud of. It was the opportunity to deliver on a promise made by a board of selectmen before my time. A longtime Cornwall resident bought some property where she and her family planned to build their forever home. Part of their decision to purchase the property was based on the Board of Selectmen agreeing to redirect a town roadway drainage ditch that dumped onto their property. And we were hoping that to redirect the drainage, it would make the property more usable and safe. So permits were sought and granted and the house was built. And the project was delayed for 5 years. So I'm happy to say that the work is now completed after many months of follow-up on my part, and a promise made by an earlier board was finally honored. Opportunities like this to help a citizen in town is my true reward for serving on this board, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Gordon, your closing statement?
Yeah, it's funny talking about emails. I'm tempted to quote Bernie Sanders about emails, but I won't. And I think that there's plenty of things we can disagree about. I think it's better to cooperate than criticize. That's part of my managerial style. But I think everyone here wants to move the town forward. So again, thank you, Ed, and everyone for coming. This week, the editors of the Lakeville Journal endorsing me said, I've been able to maintain a balance and consistency for the town through some challenging times. I appreciate those words, and I hope you do too. Cornwall voters have a real choice this year between a team that has experience and accomplishment or the Republican plan for a part-time first selectman. The first selectman is the town's chief elected official, not its chief delegator. As Harry Truman said, the buck stops here. As first selectman, has to be constantly on the job to make decisions and they interact with other town residents and officials. During this last week, I have talked and worked with Fire Department, Highway Department, Board of Finance, Board of Ed, Cornwall Consolidated School, Land Use, Town Clerk, Assessor, the list goes on. I appreciate all the support I have received in the last 2 years from the people of this talented and wonderful town. I look forward to working with you during the next 2 years. I will be glad to answer further questions after this forum. Give me a call or email, or come to the town meeting Friday in Town Hall, 7:30. Come to the Park and Rec on Saturday. They have a great Halloween program at the Town Hall planned from 5 to 8, or at the Democratic Town Committee Meet the Candidates Party with pizza at 4 to 6, West Cornwall Firehouse next Sunday. Thank you very much.
Richard?
After five terms on the board, I have a good grasp of my role as selectman. As an active resident in the town of Cornwall for over 35 years, I have a good grasp on the character of Cornwall. As a small business owner for over 35 years, I know firsthand the challenges facing businesses in this small town. I'm a careful, deliberate person who listens closely to what others are saying and trying to communicate. I respond honestly to residents' requests and don't promise anything I can't provide. I work hard to be a team player, but always keeping the interests of the town front and center in my calculations, deliberations, and decisions. I've learned that sometimes this requires courage and difficult choices that will result in someone or a group being disappointed. However, Cornwall deserves smart, thoughtful decisions and not partisan considerations. Stay focused on the big picture.
Thank you. Let me just take a moment to thank the candidates for being here today and taking time from what I'm sure is a very busy schedule to be able to answer questions and speak with you. And also thank all of you that are here today to be a part of this process, this very important election process. I'm sure that there's one thing that all of us in this room can agree on, and that is November 3rd, Election Day. A very special day, a day when we have a very special opportunity, very special responsibility, because that's the day that we get to vote. That's the day that we get to choose who will be the leaders of the town. You get to choose who will be the next leaders of Cornwall. So I would ask, please, on November 3rd, take the time, do vote. Thank you very much.